California Governor Gavin Newsom says he is proposing the 28th Amendment to the Constitution to help end our nation's gun violence crisis. Gavin Newsom's proposal entails 4 gun safety freedoms. 1, raising the minimum age to purchase a firearm to 21. 2, universal background checks. 3, a reasonable waiting period for gun purchases. 4, banning the civilian purchase of assault weapons. Let's watch some of his public announcement.
Every time it's the same. They tell us we can't stop these massacres. They tell us we have to stand by and watch tragedy after tragedy unfold in our communities. They say we can't stop domestic terrorism without violating the Second Amendment, and that thoughts and prayers are the best we can do. I'm here to say that's a lie. In this country, we do have the power to change things, to reclaim our freedom from fear. Our ability to make a more perfect union is literally written into the Constitution. So today, I'm proposing the 28th Amendment to the United States Constitution to do just that. The 28th Amendment permanently enshrines 4 additions to the laws of our land. It raises the minimum age to purchase a firearm from 18 to 21. Because if you can't buy a beer, you shouldn't be able to buy a gun. It mandates universal background checks to prevent truly dangerous people from purchasing a gun that can be used in a crime. It institutes reasonable waiting periods for all gun purchases, and it bans civilians from buying assault rifles, those weapons of war our founding fathers never foresaw.
Interesting plan. Obviously, the likelihood of having a constitutional amendment that would limit gun ownership is like 0. In fact,
right.
This proposal is kind of doesn't do a whole lot. I actually think people who are for more stringent gun control would not be satisfied at stopping here, given the enormous difficulty of getting a constitutional amendment through. Like,
yes.
I support gun rights, and I don't really want greater gun control, so I am not endorsing this whatsoever. But if you actually were able to get another constitutional amendment, and this is all you did with it, it would be a tremendous waste of your power, because we have you can have universal background checks. Those aren't unconstitutional already. I think you could have waiting periods. The no assault rifles. I mean, this is just misinformation about weapons. Everybody thinks an AR-15 is an assault rifle because it's AR. But that stands for Armalite rifle. An AR-15 is not an assault rifle technically. So would that be even covered under this? I don't think Gavin Newsom knows the difference. Raising I take the point that it's ridiculous that you can buy a gun but not a beer. I mean, I think the drinking age is actually too high, and we should generally extend the privileges of adulthood at a younger age than 21. But
right. No 18 to 21 guns, with the exception of if you serve in the U.S. military. Right?
Right.
So he does believe someone can handle a gun if this does not apply to any kind of military regulation.
And I mean, there are plenty of shootings of people who are, it doesn't like we wouldn't fix the mass shooting or any shooting problem by cutting it off there.
Right.
Look, I say that, look, obviously gun deaths are a problem. They're actually mostly having to do with like one-off handgun incidents, while the kind of mass shootings with assault-style weaponry is what captivates us because of the horror of it, the images in the media. Mostly we're dealing with one-off violence and crime and suicides with handguns. A lot of the crime is committed with guns that are illegal anyway, in that the person was not legally allowed, had as a prior conviction or a prior something of that nature, and isn't supposed to be carrying a gun. So because we're not already enforcing those laws enough, I don't really see the value in having new laws, but I'm fine with background checks and those kinds of things.
I agree. The proliferation of guns in the United States is at the point where if you want one, you can get one without going through a background check or getting one new from a gun store. So a lot of this is irrelevant. Then we have his approach of a constitutional amendment, which is going to require a 2/3 vote instead of a simple majority. Why didn't he just write a bill?
Right.
He's Gavin Newsom.
Right.
Proposing a constitutional amendment would be similar to a bill. A bill would be easier to pass with a simple majority. Do you think you're going to get a 2/3 vote from the Senate and the House with the makeup of our Congress right now? Surely not. Not only that, but then after it passes there, for it to be a constitutional...
states have to ratify
The states have to ratify it afterwards.
Yes.
So ridiculous. Also, if you want the problem or the solution to be relevant to the problem and the problem to truly be addressed, why was there no discussion of red flag laws? The problem with mass shooters, which is largely why we're having the conversation about gun reform in the country, is that these are people who are dangerous, people who are psychologically unstable. No one expects a healthy person to ever do something like that. And more often than not, people in their lives, and oftentimes the FBI has been tipped off, that these folks are dangerous. And so red flag laws were not mentioned there, and that's the one thing I think that would address the problem at its root.
Sure, I am all for doing more to stop disturbed individuals from obtaining weapons. I think red flag laws can make sense in theory, although I'm a little worried about just kind of surveillance culture of like snitching on your neighbors. But you're absolutely right that in many of these cases, the individual is known to law enforcement who did nothing. So then the idea of creating more laws and more reasons for law enforcement to have an interaction with people to arrest them or to take their guns, like if you're already uncomfortable in the society with the amount of law enforcement going on, as many progressives are, what do you accomplish by creating, like, do you want the police to go door to door disarming people? Most progressives don't want that, I don't think, right? They don't even want people prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law that we already have. So if you're not willing to do that, I don't want this to become an excuse to just disarm people who are lawful gun owners, who don't do anything, who use guns safely. That obviously that does not describe everyone who has a gun. A lot of people do a lot of bad things with guns. How do we stop them? But we do have laws already designed to handle that, and we're not enforcing them, or law enforcement's priorities are bad. The FBI is asleep at the wheels. I think we have a lot of problems. Maybe you would. I think it's plausible you reduce the risks of suicide if you have guns out of the home. But I mean, as a libertarian, I'm very unwilling to curtail other people's rights if someone is going to use a right badly to harm themselves. As sad and difficult as that can be, I don't want to. That's not you who has a gun, a firearm, and to keep uses it to feel safe in your home, or to walk down the street in an unsafe environment, or for hunting or something, and you never misuse your firearm. I don't really want to limit your right to do that.
From a moral or ethical standpoint, the law should be more concerned with people using guns to harm others.
Right.
In which case, if you are Gavin Newsom, your priority is I want to get something done about the mass shootings. Introduce a bill for red flag laws and nothing else. Force members of Congress to tell their constituents why they would ever vote against a red flag law. I think they might, some of them, make the case that you did, which do we really want the FBI knocking at your door and say, hey, your neighbor said you're kind of weird. You got anything going on? We're going to follow you for a bit.
You were watering your lawn on an off-water day.
Right. But I think that is the compromise solution in a country where most people have guns, multiple guns when they do have them. We have more guns than we do citizens in the United States. When Australia tried a buyback program where they bought them back at market value, it would take the United States hundreds of years to have all of the weapons bought back by the government at that rate. That's far longer than I think any of these folks have in mind when they think about a timeline of the solution actually impacting mass shootings in the United States. And so Gavin just proposing this as an amendment off the bat makes it a bad proposal. Then him not including red flag laws and solutions that really aren't relevant to the problem. I think it speaks to mainstream liberals not understanding guns generally. They're not people who use guns. They're not people who have been around guns. And I think that makes it really hard to legislate around people using them. Let's also not forget to mention the Second Amendment has the language well regulated in it. So what does this cover that is not covered in the Second Amendment? This is the kind of stuff that should be in a bill, not in an amendment.
Yeah, I've said that wanting to get rid of all the guns in the U.S. is like wishing you had a magic wand and can wave it. This is like saying we should obtain a magic wand and then really not do anything with it, because passing a 28th Amendment to the Constitution would be about as difficult as obtaining a magic wand. So interesting idea for Gavin Newsom. Real Real great one. That was our view, but you can tell us yours in the comments. More Rising right after this.